We're going to do a deep dive masterclass on Cameron and on his rise to success. This is not a normal way to success, but it's starting to be the norm because of the technology and the new ways of doing things. So check it out.
All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on Cameron.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not just the music, though. We're talking entrepreneurship, creative hustle, and like some real business savvy, the kind of stuff that applies outside of music and entertainment, you know?
Right.
So we're using this YouTube interview he did with Steve Stout, and we're going to unpack like his whole approach to independence. You ready to decode this playbook?
Let's do it. I mean, what's so fascinating about Cameron is he's always been ahead of the game, like building his brand and creating opportunities way before social media was even a thing.
Yeah, like back in the mixtape era, before algorithms and Spotify playlists, right?
Exactly. And the brilliant thing is he understood the power of the streets. Before social media, it was all about word of mouth to build buzz.
Yeah.
And he knew how to get his music out there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just making good music, it was the strategy behind it.
Yeah, he was like a one-man marketing machine, grinding it out with his Dipset crew, creating their own opportunities when there weren't any traditional paths open to them. That's serious initiative.
It really is.
And even with his independent spirit, Cameron still learned some hard lessons about the music industry. He ended up in a bad deal with Sony, felt exploited, saw his marketing budget basically disappear.
Yeah. And the way he got out of that deal was, well, let's just say classic Cameron.
Yeah, definitely not something I'd recommend everyone try. He basically brought this huge entourage to the Sony offices every day. He made the executives so uncomfortable that they let him out of his contract.
Oh, it's crazy, but it worked. Shows how far he was willing to go to stand up for himself.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend everyone try that approach. But it does show the importance of knowing when to walk away from a bad deal, even if it means taking an unconventional route.
Absolutely. Knowing your rights, understanding contracts, seeking legal counsel, those are crucial in situations like this. But Cameron's story definitely shows the power of knowing your worth and fighting for it.
Yeah, and look how things have changed now. The music landscape is so different. Power has shifted to independent artists because of the internet and social media.
He recognizes that shift. He points out labels aren't building artists from the ground up anymore. They want artists who already have a big online following, artists who can generate their own buzz.
Right. He actually told a story about Mac Miller, who built his own successful independent career and was turning down major label deals because he was making bank on his own. It shows how much the game has changed.
It really does. It's a key takeaway for anyone in a creative field these days. That direct connection with your audience online is crucial. You don't always need a gatekeeper anymore. You have the tools to reach people directly and build a career on your own terms.
Yeah, speaking of building a career on your own terms, let's talk about his sports podcast, It Is What It Is. It's interesting because he was kind of hesitant about podcasting in the beginning.
Right. He didn't see the potential at first,
Yeah.
especially for like sports and politics. But then he saw the opportunity and went all in.
Of course, he did it his own way. Put up his own money for a professional set and production team. He wanted high quality, but with that raw, authentic feel, what he calls barbershop talk.
Yeah, it's fascinating how he took that vibe, which could have been super informal,
Yeah.
and gave it this professional polish, elevated the conversation, but kept it authentic.
Yeah, and it worked. He said he didn't even spend all the money he set aside because the show became profitable so fast. Shows the power of a well-executed idea that people connect with.
It does. His approach is similar to Joe Budden's success with podcasting, too. They both emphasize consistency, putting out content regularly, building that loyal fan base over time.
All right, let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about his role as Rico in the film Paid in Full, his first acting gig, and he killed it.
He has a great story about how he got that role.
Yeah.
He was so set on getting the part that he pulled out a real gun during his audition.
Wow, that's dedication. Obviously not something we'd recommend. Safety and professionalism are always most important, but it shows his passion and how far he was willing to go.
Definitely. What's even more interesting, he said he improvised a lot of his lines in Paid in Full because he felt the original script didn't sound like how people in Harlem really talked. He brought his own voice and experience to the role and made it even better.
And you see that authenticity throughout his whole career, right? Whether it's music, podcasting, acting, he's always true to himself and his perspective.
Absolutely. That authenticity is a big reason for his success. It resonates with people across different platforms, makes him relatable, even when he's being controversial.
So let's talk about how he approaches brand partnerships. He's really careful about picking brands that reflect his values, like his deal with Underdog Fantasy. That's a good example.
Totally. He said it's not just about the money. It's about finding brands that match his vision, brands that let him express himself authentically.
And Cam also talks about creative control, how he has to have control over his brand. And that includes limiting the amount of sponsorships on his podcast. It is what it is. This is a great example of having control over your own brands. Check it out.
He talked about how they limit the ads on their podcast. They don't want to overload the audience or make it feel too commercialized.
That's a smart move, putting quality over quantity. They build trust with their audience by not bombarding them with ads. It's about finding the right balance between making money and keeping your content authentic.
It's clear Cameron knows how to negotiate. He saw those initial offers were bad and wasn't afraid to push back.
Right, and he got a much better deal for both groups. He understood their worth and fought for it, and even got some cool perks for himself too.
Talk about a win-win situation. It's a good reminder that we all have the right to negotiate. Advocate for what we deserve. Sometimes you have to walk away if the deal isn't right.
You do. And Cameron's success with It Is What It Is shows you can disrupt an industry, even if you're not a traditional expert. He brought a new perspective to sports commentary, and it connected with people. He found a way to blend those real barbershop conversations with a more polished world of professional commentary.
Yeah, he took something that felt real and relatable and shared it with a larger audience. He's proof that you don't have to follow a typical path to find success.
Sometimes it's about making your own path, trusting your gut.
Cameron's story is full of lessons. No matter what field you're in, it's about staying true to yourself, working hard, and never being afraid to break the mold.
He's a true original, and his journey is both inspiring and entertaining.
Definitely inspiring and entertaining.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance, right? Your passion can drive you, but you don't want to risk your well-being.
He talked about how important it is to get honest feedback, even if it's not what you want to hear. He used to play his music for a whole room of people and wouldn't release anything unless they liked it.
That's a sign of maturity, being open to criticism and understanding that you don't have all the answers.
So we've got Cameron doing his thing with the podcast, but he's also got all this music industry experience. I'm curious what he had to say about the differences between the two.
He actually said that podcasting is a lot easier in a lot of ways. He doesn't have to deal with record labels or the whole sample clearance thing.
Yeah.
Getting permission to use other people's music in your tracks.
Oh, yeah. I bet it's nice not having those label execs breathing down his neck.
Definitely. And think about it. No more managing artists, no more complex contracts. He just shows up, talks about what he knows, connects with his audience directly.
Yeah, that direct connection is so important.
It is. He controls his own story, creates his own content, no drama or pressure like in the music industry.
And let's be real. Cameron's personality is a big part of why he's so entertaining. He's outspoken and always keeps it real.
He's definitely not afraid to stir the pot. He's gotten into it with athletes who didn't like what he had to say. But it's interesting, he sees his perspective as that raw, unfiltered barbershop talk, the kind of stuff people are talking about all over the country.
So he's bringing those conversations that are usually private to a much bigger audience.
Exactly. And it's a totally different vibe from those polished commentators on ESPN or Fox Sports.
Right, and I think that's why so many people connect with him. He's authentic, relatable, and not afraid to say what he thinks, even if it means challenging the status quo.
Absolutely. And speaking of challenging the status quo, he's been a huge supporter of student athletes getting paid through NIL deals. He sees it as a much-needed shift in power.
He's talked about how colleges make billions from sports.
Yeah.
But the athletes don't get their fair share.
And he understands. He knows the struggles of young athletes, especially those from tough backgrounds. He feels like if colleges can profit so much, the athletes deserve a piece of the pie.
It's about recognizing the value they bring to their schools and the whole industry. It's about fairness.
He made a good point. Some of these athletes might not make it pro, so NIL money could be their only income from playing sports.
That's a really important point. NIL deals can give them some security and a chance to make money from their talent while they're still in college. And Cameron doesn't just talk about entrepreneurship, he lives it.
Oh, he definitely walks the walk. Look at his deals with Reebok, Kith, and now Underdog Fantasy. The guy knows how to build a brand.
And he's strategic about it. Doesn't just take any deal that comes his way. He's choosing brands that match his values.
Yeah, he's looking for partners that will let him be himself. doesn't want to compromise his vision or water down his brand.
He talked about how he and limit the ads on their podcast.
Yeah.
They don't want to overwhelm the audience or make it feel too commercial.
It's about quality over quantity, and I think that's something listeners appreciate. Cameron's success with It Is What It Is shows you can shake up an industry, even if you don't come from that world. He had a fresh take on sports commentary, and people loved it. He found a way to blend those authentic barbershop conversations with that polished professional style.
He took something that felt real and relatable and brought it to a wider audience. He's living proof you don't have to follow the traditional path.
Sometimes it's about creating your own lane and trusting your instincts.
Cameron's story has so many lessons. It doesn't matter what you do. It's about being true to yourself, working hard, and never being afraid to break the mold.
He's a true one of a kind. His story is both inspiring and entertaining.
It's crazy to think about it, you know? With all the success he's had, he still seems so grounded. Still the same guy from Harlem who hustled his way to where he is now.
Yeah, you're right. He keeps it real. And I think that's what people like about him. That genuine energy, it's powerful.
So looking back on all the stuff we've learned about Cameron, what's like the main takeaway for the listener, no matter what field they're in?
I think the biggest thing is you have to make your own path. He didn't wait for permission or for someone to give him a chance. He created his own opportunities, even when it meant doing things differently.
It's about having that courage to stand out, to question how things are usually done and build something that's truly yours. Cameron's career shows what's possible when you have that belief in yourself and aren't afraid to take those risks.
Yeah, he's a great example of how to adapt too. Music, film, podcasting. He's always finding new ways to use his skills.
Never afraid to switch things up, learn new stuff, embrace change. And you know what? He's not afraid to fail either. He's had his setbacks, but he always comes back stronger.
That resilience is something we can all learn from. And he really understands the importance of teamwork. He collaborates, delegates, asks for help when he needs it.
And even in this interview, he's so open about sharing his knowledge and experience. It's not about keeping secrets. He wants other people to learn and find success too.
It says a lot about him. He wants to help others and give them guidance. Really inspiring stuff.
So Cameron's story, it's like a masterclass in entrepreneurship, creativity, resilience, being true to yourself. It reminds us we can achieve anything if we set our minds to it. But we got to put in the work, find the right people, and never lose sight of our vision.
He's proof that you can break the rules, exceed expectations, and build a career that's both successful and fulfilling.
Cameron's journey shows us there's no one right way to do things. So we want to leave you with this. What unconventional paths are out there waiting for you? What can you learn from Cameron's hustle and independent spirit as you figure out your own career path? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Cam.
Hope you enjoyed this deep dive masterclass on how people of other types of backgrounds could come together and create new pathways to success. Like, share, subscribe. We out.